Welcome back to another episode of Between the Ears, everybody. I am Skylar Callahan, and today I'm going to be joined by my co-publisher here on Mountaineers Now, Christopher Hall. You can find him on Twitter at WV Hallbilly. And today we're going to talk about the WVU football schedule, breaking down the opponents. We're going to slot some of these teams into certain categories like a lock that they should win, toss-up, a game that they are likely to lose, and lock losses as well. So we're going to break down the entire schedule here right now on Between Years. Let's get to it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this WVU opponent breakdown. Chris, my co-publisher here on SI Fan Nation Mountaineers Now. Chris, welcome back to the show. It's been a while since we've done Between Years together, but welcome back.
Yeah, let's hope our predictions aren't the same as they were in the past. Hopefully it's not an echo chamber here.
Yeah. There's been a few times too where we've done these predictions, and I mean, I've got to be honest, I was way off on them. And not only is I way off, but like, I think we were both way off. A couple of years ago, I think we almost had the exact same predictions, if I remember correctly. I don't really remember, but
yeah, the only one I remember is 2016 because I predicted 10 wins. That's my claim to fame on predictions, and that's been 6 years ago. So,
yeah, it's been quite a while since we've done this. So this is going to be a little interesting. As you can see, this is going to not necessarily be a game-by-game prediction, although it kind of sort of is if you look at some of these categories we have lined up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each game on WVU schedule and categorize them by what we think about that opponent. So it's either going to be, yes, it should be 100% a lock win, a game they should win, a 50-50 game, which would go in the toss-up category, one that is more likely a game that they'll lose, and then also a game that's pretty much going to be a loss. So we'll see how this unfolds. Chris, before we start, I want you to go ahead and just kind of give people your quick overall thoughts of what you expect from this team this season. Doesn't have to be too in depth, but just kind of your general sense that you get around the team right
now. I definitely see a turn in the program as far as culture. It's definitely different this year. When I was thinking about it, I think a lot of people noticed that Neil Brown wasn't very excited day one, and then when I sat and thought about it, they're essentially in their second month of practice. So the excitement kind of wore off in OTAs, and you're seeing it pretty much pay off in fall camp. Obviously, everyone is on the same level this year with OTAs, so everyone's doing the same thing, but you're seeing a big difference as far as there's not so much chaos. I wouldn't necessarily call it chaos, but it's far more organized with the newcomers coming in. So they did hit their feet, hit the ground running. For the most part, and you don't see players, I don't want to say dogging it, but not putting full effort in, even when it comes to stretching. Everybody, when it comes to the pregame, is locked in and doing everything the way they're supposed to be doing it. So it's the little things that you notice right now that hopefully will pay off later.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people from outside of Morgantown probably view this team as a 5 to 6 win team. I feel like that's a little low. I mean, it doesn't seem like this team is that bad enough to not get to bowl eligibility. I mean, if they fall to 5 and 7, then there's going to be some big problems going on in Morgantown. So I don't know. I think if we're talking about the over under here in the 5.5 wins, I would probably take the over, but I don't know. You may not want my betting advice. Chris probably knows that better than anybody.
Definitely don't want his betting advice. Still owes me from the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So anyways, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. So like I said, we're going to take each game by game. Chris will have his chart. I'll have mine. We'll start this first off. I'll go ahead and get us started here with Pitt. So I understand everybody looks at Pitt. They don't have Kenny Pickett. They don't have Jordan Addison. They've lost a few pieces off the defense too, but they do have their entire starting offensive line back. They do have a three-headed horse in the backfield. They have their top 3 rushers back, including Israel Abanikanda. So there is a lot of talent on this Pitt team still. And if you really match these two teams up side by side, it's almost fairly even. So I don't know if either team has quite an advantage, even though both fan bases probably think they do. So I'm going to put this in the toss-up category. As much as it pains me to say, I just don't see either team having much of an advantage here. So what do you think about this game?
Well, if you're going from outside perception looking in, it seems that Pitt's a lock, right? They're 6.5-point favorites. They're a lock to win. I'm going completely opposite. This is my lock category. Pitt's a lock. That's a lock win.
Lock win. Okay, bold.
Lock win. Just for some of the reasons you mentioned, they lost most of their production from last season. Yes, they have a rushing attack and they bring their offensive line, return their whole offensive line, but it's not like Pitt was on the rise prior to last year. And if you look at who they beat the team that beat Clemson early in the year because they had preseason rank. So that was Wake Forest in the ACC championship. So I'm not sold on Pitt. It's more of a prove it to me, and you can honestly go the other way and say prove it to me, West Virginia, in the same breath. So, but I like West Virginia in this game. There's obviously a big circle around this game for a lot of reasons, but I think most importantly for Neil Brown and this staff, man, they hate losing. And that Maryland game, he just talked about it this week, has really left a bad taste in their mouth. So when they focus on a game, it gets changed. Just think of Iowa State last year, the big turnaround that game was.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, I think the furthest I would go is maybe a should win in this scenario. I do think there's a lot that points to West Virginia in this game, matchup wise, and just the overall general feel. I think West Virginia has maybe a slight advantage, but I want to keep it in the toss up for now. Week 2. And this is about a 9-10 day rest, or not necessarily rest, but 9 to 10 days in between the first and second game for WVU. They play the first game on a Thursday. Week 2 is a Big 12 game right out of the chute. You got Kansas. And me and you have talked about this off the air before many times, that this is kind of a scary situation for West Virginia, because if they lose that first game of Pitt, that's going to be a tough game to come back and play Kansas week 2. And I know Kansas is nowhere near a team you should be scared of, but if you lose that first game, doubt creeps into the mind. Kansas probably looks at that and says, oh, we have a chance to get an early win here. All that said, I got to go with where it should be, right? It's got to be a lock win for me. I don't see how West Virginia loses this game, even if they lose that first game at Pitt. I'm going to go in the lock category here.
Yeah, the pessimistic mountaineer, no matter how you look at this game, you could go West Virginia wins, or they could still overlook Kansas because they just beat a ranked team. If they lose, that loss could carry over to another loss. But again, I just go back to there's just a new refound focus with this group. Win or lose, this is a lock win. I know Kansas has some momentum from last year, but as we see in Morgantown, it takes a while to build a program. When you do a big culture change, especially at a place like Kansas, that's just a perennial loser in football. It's going to take them a while to kind of turn it around. Yes, they'll probably shock some teams here and there throughout the year, but
they've got a good coach.
I don't think they'll be ready to roll into Morgantown week 2.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lance Leopold. I think he's. Again, I mean, we've maybe said this about the last 2 or 3 coaches. They just give them time, but we'll see. Week 3, Towson. I'm not even going to waste any time talking about this one. In my opinion, I think this is a lock win. Are you on the same page there?
Yeah, there's no reason. And we can actually say under Neil Brown that he handles these teams the way they should be. The final score looks the way it should with these teams.
Yeah, nothing here, no scare here for West Virginia. Towson's not a very good FCS team either, so this one should be over by the end, maybe the midway point of the second quarter. Virginia Tech, week 4, they won this game last year in Morgantown on a goal line stand, and now they get to go to Blacksburg on a Thursday night. This is going to be an electric atmosphere. The game's already sold out. It actually just got sold out maybe a day or 2 ago. So I don't know what to do with this one. I'll let you go first. What do you think about the matchup with the Hokies?
All in lock. Lock it up.
Lock win?
Lock win.
Wow.
Virginia Tech, new coach, new quarterback. And if you look at their recruiting rankings since Beamer has left, they continue to fall. It's another rebuild for Virginia Tech. The post-Beamer era has not been kind, and Justin Fuente kind of, didn't blackball, but ruined the recruiting in the state of Virginia for Virginia Tech. So they're having to rebuild relationships. We saw what Neil Brown had to do here in West Virginia. It's going to take time. Fourth game into the season, Virginia Tech atmosphere is great. It's electric Thursday night, but this isn't Beamer ball rolling in. West Virginia lock it in.
All right, so he's going 4 straight locks. You know what? You almost have me sold on that, but I'm going to go with the should win. So I'm not quite as confident. I just think there's going to be it's going to be a tough atmosphere. I get it. It's not Beamer ball. It's a lot of changeover. But there's always this weird feeling about playing an opponent in a rough atmosphere, and I just don't know how this team's going to handle it. Maybe they'll handle it well in week 1 against Pitt, but there might be more West Virginia fans there than Pitt anyway. So I don't know if they'll.
And to be clear, when I say lock, these aren't blowout wins.
Yeah.
These aren't blowout wins. I'm just saying they're going to win. This isn't a lock like, all right, this is a 30-point win. They're going to win. These are definitely going to be battles. Pitt and Virginia Tech, Kansas and Townsend should be okay.
So yeah, that is a good point to clarify there. So when we're saying lock win, we're just expecting that game to be no other result than a win, even if it's a 2-point win. So I'm going to go should win here for the Virginia Tech game. I just still think there's a chance that the Hokies can maybe pull it off an upset, but I'll leave it in should win for now. Game 5, I should say. Against Texas out in Austin. Man, this one's tough. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna put this one in toss up, because even though Texas has all the talent in the world, they haven't been able to get over the hump. This will be year 2 of Steve Sarkisian. I like Quinn Ewers as a quarterback, but he's very young, and going up against that defense of West Virginia, I just don't know if he's going to be able to have much success against it. But they do have Bijan Robinson and Xavier Worthy, 2 of the top playmakers in the Big 12. I almost put this in likely lose, but I'm going to say toss up. This is going to be a 50-50 game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Toss up. Leaning more towards toss up than likely lose. I'm throwing this one in the toss-up. New quarterback, but Texas does have a bunch of talent. Sark is a good coach. He's the one that brought Washington back before Peterson took over, and that was before he went to USC. So he is a good coach. Consistency is obviously key. Texas has to, for Texas to be back or whatever, to be back to where they were, 10 and 11 wins a year is where they're at. So they have to prove it, but I think that you're going to see Texas take the right steps this year. But this one's a toss-up. This can go either way, and so much, with my locks, they should be going 4-0 into Austin. So it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be a huge crowd. You mentioned the crowd at Tech. They should be veterans, obviously going on 2 road games and a non-conference. But it's going to be a good game. I think that might be the one where they kind of get us back from the Will Greerman.
Baylor, this one is interesting, again, because if things play out the way you have it, 4-0 start, maybe they get the better of Texas in that toss-up scenario. Now they're 5-0, and you come back home against the defending Big 12 champion. This is a situation where they're probably already ranked at this point, being 5-0. But beating Baylor, like just that opportunity being there. If they start out 6-0 with wins over Pitt, Virginia Tech, Texas, and Baylor, now you're talking about a team that's maybe top 10, close to top 10, maybe top 15. So this could be a very, very interesting first half of the season. Do you think this is a game that West Virginia can pull out an upset, or do you think that the talent that Baylor has defensively is just going to be too much?
I mean, anytime you're playing in Morgantown, there's a chance for an upset. Baylor has a lot to replace as well. They also have a lot of guys. Matt Rule, who covered with Carolina, did a great job rebuilding Baylor, and Aranda's kind of picked it up and ran with it. They brought in a lot of pieces during the transition, so they're going to obviously. The Big 12 media feels like they're reloading, primed to go back to back. I'm more in this one that West Virginia is likely to lose. I will not pick. There's only one team that gets a lock from the Big 12, but this is a likely lose. Baylor's good. Kind of the comment that I said about Iowa State. This is a game that they've got circled. They got pushed around last year. If you remember, this was Baylor's coming out game last year. No one knew that they could pass until they did it against West Virginia. So it's a game at circle. Expects to be a good game, but I have West Virginia actually likely losing this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put Baylor in the same category here too. I get Blake Shapen a quarterback. This is his first year as the full-time starter. And I get the question marks that they have in certain areas of the offense, but that defense might be the most talented defense that Dave Aranda's had. And I know he lost some pieces off of that defense too, but this is probably the most athletic, fastest, biggest defense he's had. And that's just a scary sight for Big 12 teams. So I don't know.
Baylor comes in just shy of 2 weeks off as well. So
yeah,
both teams. It's a Thursday night game, so yes, West Virginia will have the 2 weeks, but under Neil Brown, I don't have this in front of me. He hasn't done the best coming off weeks. So if it plays out that West Virginia's 5-0, all the hype that's surrounding that game, best case scenario, they are 5-0 and playing well. All the hype, can they handle it? They haven't had hype under Neil Brown. This group hasn't had hype, so there'd be a lot of storylines heading into that game.
Yeah,
I would. If it wasn't in Morgantown, this would be a lock-off.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I don't think there's any way they would beat the Bears in Waco this year. There's just no way. Texas Tech is an interesting one because Neil's 0 for so far. He's 0 for 3 against the Red Raiders. I don't know how or why. You look back at all 3 games, and it's just kind of been miserable. I mean, they had the chance to win down in Lubbock a couple of years ago. They had the fumble that was returned for a touchdown that ended up winning the game. Last year, they got off to a very flat start and had to essentially dig themselves out of that hole, and was too little too late. So I don't know what to do with this one. Texas Tech is going to be bad. I mean, they're going to be just downright bad this year. I mean, I think they've got the right coach in place. I just think it's going to take time. Neil being 0-3 against this team, I mean, I don't know how much you can really put into that, especially with the changes there. So I'm actually going to go lock on this one. I was back and forth between lock and should win, but I don't really see a scenario in which Texas Tech has much of a chance in this one unless there's just some significant injury that we don't have any idea that's going to happen.
Yeah, this is a toss-up. West Virginia should win this game. You mentioned that this is going to be a bad Texas Tech team, but they were bad the last 3 years. All 3 games, I'm pretty sure West Virginia was favored in all 3 games. So this toss-up, this is a prove-it game.
Awesome.
Even if you're 4-2 at this point, this is a must-win game. You cannot lose Texas Tech 4 straight years. Like, you just can't do it. They're a bad football program. They've been a bad football program. West Virginia's been the better football program the last 3 years. You got to prove it on the field. 100% a toss-up. Would not be shocked if they lost. Would not be shocked if they won.
Yeah, if you lose to Texas Tech 4 straight years, it's going to be hard to keep your job. I mean, again, unless that's him winning 9 or 10 games, and that would be one of the losses. But you go 5-7, and one of those 7 losses is to Texas Tech, you're in trouble. So
unless they went off on a
exactly. Unless Texas Tech somehow goes 9-3, which I don't think anybody expects, but that's college football. So The next game we've got, I believe, is TCU. Yes, TCU. Off the top of my head, I believe this is home game.
Yep, home game, homecoming too.
Homecoming. That's right. That's right. This is the game where neither one of us are going to be at.
We won't be there.
So
it's probably going to be the most epic 3 overtime game in that history, surpassing Louisville. Because the last time I missed a game because of a wedding was the Louisville triple overtime.
And here we go again. So you can blame me for this one if that's the case. But
100%.
We'll be watching this one as we're getting ready for a wedding. But TCU, this is a tough one. I just don't know much about this team heading into the year. I know they got a really good receiver, Quentin Johnston. They got Max Dugan, who's an experienced quarterback. I don't see it as a lock. I don't see it I don't think it's a likely lose either. It's either a toss-up or should win. And given TCU's personnel, I mean, they can score with just about anybody, but at the same time, I think their defense is going to lose them a lot of games because they can't get off the field either. So I'm going to put it in toss-up just because there's so much unknown with Sonny Dykes and this coaching staff coming in. We don't know what they're really going to look like. I could see them going 8-4. I could see them going 4-8. It's just which TCU team are we going to get? So I think this is a toss-up.
Yeah, I'm at a toss-up, but I'm leaning towards should win. That's where I'm going to put it. I 100% expect this to be somewhat of a shootout, up and down the field game with Sonny Dykes taking that over at TCU, and then obviously Graham Harrell in Morgantown. 2 air raid systems, maybe a little flash of the, I guess not that old a Big 12, wasn't that long ago when points being put up, but yeah, I kind of expect this to a shootout in Morgantown. West Virginia should win in a close one.
Moving on to Iowa State. This is probably the first year that under Matt Campbell, I'm not looking at this team and being like, yeah, this is probably a loss or a good chance of losing. I actually think Iowa State's going to take a major step back this year. They're going to be replacing Breece Hall in the backfield. This is the first time they haven't had a stalwart at running back in a long time. And they have to replace Brock Purdy. They've got a lot of pieces off that defense that are no longer there. I think Iowa State's a bottom 3, bottom 4 team of the league this year. So that being said, I know Matt Campbell's a good coach. He'll get this team to play better than they really are, but I'm going to go should win.
Yeah, so much of this game, you get first week in November, where's the mindset of both teams at this point? It's kind of where you are. Yeah, they have a lot of rebuilding to do when you look at it. And when they come to Morgantown, or when we go out there, they'll have just hosted Oklahoma. So they're going to have that kind of stretch there, before that they play Texas. They win those 2 games, or they riding high, they riding low. They split it. Where are you at? West Virginia going out there, same situation. Where you at with your record? You just come off that loss to Texas Tech after maybe only losing 1 game at that point. Where's your confidence at? But I got this in the should win, just because, like you said, there's a lot of pieces that Iowa State has to put together. Matt Campbell is a good coach. I have it as should win. It is a bit of a toss-up for me. But I think West Virginia can come out with a win with this, and I think they should win this game.
Moving on to Oklahoma, this I know people are probably going to be like, I don't know how there's any block losses on this schedule, but this is going to be one of them for me. I mean, I don't care who the head coach is. I don't care who the quarterback is. Brent Venables is still a good coach. Dylan Gabriel's a really good quarterback, and that team is still loaded with talent. I think everyone forgets that and just looks at the 2 major moves or the 2 major departures in the quarterback and head coach and forgets about everything else. Oklahoma is still going to be very good. I don't expect them to take much of a step back, if at all. Heck, they may even take a step forward just because of how good of a defensive coach Brent Venables is. I've got Oklahoma at the top of the league. Until the West Virginia beats Oklahoma. I know they've been close, especially last year, but until they beat them, I can't even put them in the likely lose category.
Yeah, I'm not as sold as the transition to Venables to Oklahoma. quite yet. Not to say that they're going to like all of a sudden just start only winning 8 games, but I'm not going to put this as a lock. I probably should, but the only reason I'm not, again, it's in Morgantown. There's a lot of football that has to be played before that. West Virginia, this is another game, obviously, that's been circled on West Virginia's calendar since 2012. I mean, it's a blue blood program, but again, if there is an opportunity to get them before they leave, it would have to be this year. Of course, saying that, they'll probably do it next year in Norman, but I'm going to put them in likely to lose. I don't want to put it's hard for me to lock in a loss in Morgantown, even if West Virginia's only won 1 game. We've seen them, they beat Baylor that year. They only won 4 games the whole year. So I'll put it in. I'm not sold on Venables to move to Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to take a huge step back by any means, but I think you will actually start to see the decline in Oklahoma because I don't think Venables is the guy. And it is probably going to come to the head when they start SEC. In a few years.
Yeah, they're a tricky team. I think they could actually be a sleeper for the playoff, but at the same time, if they don't live up to the expectations, like as in Dylan Gabriel, then maybe they do win 8, 9 games. But I still can't put them in even in likely lose. Kansas State, this is a team I don't know if anybody else is high on, but I'm extremely high on Kansas State this year. I think they have a chance to get to Dallas for the Big 12 championship game. They've got Deuce Vaughn. I know Adrian Martinez, the transfer from Nebraska, hasn't been very good over the last couple of years. He's actually probably regressed each year at Nebraska, and it might be a good thing to get him up out of there. He just seems like the perfect Kansas State type quarterback. And I think having an electrifying running back with him is only going to help him out. And this is by far, in my opinion, the best defense in the Big 12. They've got a lot of really good players in that front 7. I don't see how West Virginia wins this game, but I do think they have a chance. So I'm going to stick it and likely lose. What about you?
Yep, same situation. What happens in Oklahoma? What are we doing? So I'm actually – I have West Virginia should win this game. I do like the Kansas State program. They pretty much got Bill Snyder 2.0. He's a perfect fit. But I like West Virginia in Morgantown. If it was in Manhattan, this would be a loss. This would be a likely loss, but I'm going with should win on this one.
Last game of the season, Oklahoma State, the Cowboys, they've had West Virginia's number for quite a while now. I don't even remember the last when they had over them, maybe 2014, if I remember correctly. So it's been a while. Oklahoma State, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's a loss. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Spencer Sanders, most consistent quarterback in the league, doesn't have the most skill, but he is the most consistent. And Mike Gundy's going to find a way to replace all that talent they lost defensively. Derek Mason's a very good defensive coordinator. They're going to find a way to be competitive again. I don't see how they win this game.
Yeah, Gundy's definitely one of the more underrated coaches in the country, despite some of his antics. But yeah, this is a lock of a loss. Like I'm pretty sure they haven't beat them since 2014. So it's been a long time. I don't know what it is with the state of Oklahoma, but West Virginia can't beat them. That's a lock loss. In Stillwater, I'm pretty sure that it will be senior day out there. So, like you said, they're probably going to be this. They're probably going to need this win to go to Dallas. I expect them to be in the top 2, 100%. Yeah, Oklahoma State's definitely going to take that.
So there you have it. There's our 2 charts. I've got Kansas, Towson, Texas Tech as locks. Should wins Virginia Tech, Iowa State. Toss-ups, Pitt, Texas, TCU. Likely lose Baylor, Kansas State. And locks, Oklahoma, both Oklahomas. And there you see Chris's with Pitt, Kansas, Towson, Virginia Tech as locks. The only lock loss he has is Oklahoma State. Couple of toss-ups there, Texas, Texas Tech. And there you see the should wins and the likely losses. So, Chris, before I let you go, we see the 2 toss-ups. This would decide the season in terms of what their record would be. So give us a quick prediction on the Texas Tech game, and that way we know what your record stands as of right now.
I'm actually going to – these are honestly 2 toss-ups. I don't think I'll take both of them. They're either going to lose to Texas or lose to Texas Tech. I don't think they can get both of those. if I'm just picking off right now, it's going to be the loss to Texas. That's obviously the most sensible one because they have all the talent, and I think that's kind of how it plays out. You know, they start off 4-0, you're going into 100,000 fans down there in Austin, and it's going to be rowdy, and they're going to be ready. They definitely hate the fact that we own that series, so they've got that game circled for sure. So I'm gonna give the loss at Texas and finally pick up the big win at Texas Tech.
There you go. So splitting those two makes West Virginia 8-4 in his scenario. I have 3 toss-ups. My gosh. So I'm going to say TCU win, Texas loss, Pitt win. So that gets me to 6-6. So again, hovering right around what everybody else is saying.
You're saying TCU Pitt will win.
7-5. 7-5. My math is terrible. Again, don't follow me on math or gambling. So that's not what we're here for. But 7-5. Chris is saying 8-4. So pretty about consistent with a lot of what other people think around the country. Maybe a little bit higher on expectations. But that's going to do it for this week's episode, or for today's episode of Between the Ears. Chris Hall joining me, my co-publisher on Mountaineers Now, SI Fan Nation. Don't forget, Tuesday, we're going to have main event on Relatively Sports with Eugene Napoleon. That's right, main event from And One. Eugene actually used to be his agent back in the day, so he's going to come on and join us on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Wednesday, we'll be back with Between the Ears, and Zach Campbell's going to come back on, and we're going to dive into some more preseason stuff. So for Chris Hall, I'm Skylar Callahan. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SI_WVU and make sure to subscribe on our YouTube, Mountaineers Now. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.